Most people do little things every day that hold them back from saving up money and reaching financial freedom. After I learned about these and what to do instead, it completely changed how I look at my habits and let me leave my day job at 24. So these are some habits that can actually keep you poor. That kind of rhymed. Only having one job. Most people only have one job, and while that's not necessarily a bad thing, if you look at the average millionaire, they have 7 streams of income. When you're working for a company, you're making somebody else rich. You're generally making the owner of that company rich. Well, you might get paid for your time. Generally, it's not something that pays you while you sleep. But when you take a couple years of your life and you work nights and weekends and you create your own business or your own investment on the side and you start looking out for your own finances, not just worrying about your company, that's where you can kind of start changing your life. And I know for me, when I took a couple years of not making all that much money, doing YouTube and real estate and the other things that I did, but eventually those turned into producing more money than I was making at my day job. But if you continue to just trade your time for money, it is really hard to ever stop doing that if all you have is your one main job and that's your only source of income. The next one is only saving for specific things in the short term. They don't have, and I didn't used to have, long-term overall goals that are broken down into smaller goals. It's always, what can I buy in a month? Can I get that new shiny object? Instead of saving up for things that will actually better your life and buying assets, buying things that will pay you indefinitely, instead they're just saving up for more stuff. It's sadly pretty common for a lot of people to have separate bank accounts to hide money from their partners, and they'll only give, 75% towards stuff, and then they'll keep 25% for themselves, and they'll secretly buy things and spend it on themselves. And don't get me wrong, it's not bad to have your own money. What is bad is not being on the same page with your spouse. When it comes to money, if one of you is going out and spending a lot of money and the other person is trying to change their lives and improve their finances and save money, it can be very hard on your relationship. It could be very hard on you personally. So I think it's really important to have open and honest conversations with your partner. Make sure you're on the same page. You can get to your goals a lot faster. And a lot of times that secret money that you do keep for yourself, a lot of that gets wasted and it's on like guilty pleasure stuff that maybe you wouldn't buy if you were honest with the people around you. So just generally secrets and lying to people in a relationship is not going to be good for you long term. Maybe it'll be fine, but I don't think it'll end well. Buying expensive things that you're only going to use a few times. A lot of times people buy things like suits or dresses or guitars, jewelry, kitchen appliances. This could be anything, right? But when you look at those things, you've got to think about the cost per use. Let's say you buy a $300 pair of sneakers or dress shoes, and because they're so expensive or because they're dress shoes and you don't dress up that much, if you're anything like me, I dress up like as little as humanly possible. Clearly, I didn't even put on color today, but that's not the point. If you just use those $300 shoes like 6 times over the next, 5 years, then you're looking at $50 per wear. And a lot of people don't look at it this way. They look at it as I'm going to a wedding or I'm going to whatever, so therefore I need a new set of clothes, new dress shirt, a new dress, new earrings, new whatever it is. But if you only wear that 1 or 2 times, would you spend $100 or $200 or $50 to wear that for a few hours? Or it can be bigger things, it could be anything really. You want to look at the cost per use. That's kind of why I like minimalism, where I have very few things and I use them a lot. So that makes it where even if things are a little bit more expensive, like my one wheel or my shirts, because I use them a ton and I don't have a bunch of other stuff, it actually makes the cost per use pretty low. Jumping ahead too soon. I see a lot of people, and I have felt this myself, who want to jump ahead before they should. And what I mean by this is you get out of school, if you went to school, which I didn't, you feel like you've been grinding for a while, you have a job that's stressful and you're starting to make more money finally, and you decide it's time to get maybe a new car, it's time to finally get a place of your own, you get a condo or a small house. And generally people do that as soon as they can, afford it. But this can be the one thing that will completely change your life. If I had gone ahead and gotten a condo instead of getting my first multifamily and living in kind of subpar, small or sketchy places for the last couple of years, instead I tried to jump forward through all that and skip the whole investing and building up wealth stage and tried to get to a place like this, which this is almost free because we're house hacking this, but try to just jump all the way ahead right from the get-go, I would still have to have, like an actual job, which would suck because I'm lazy. And it was those literally like 3 years of delayed gratification and not jumping forward, even though technically we had the money to, but instead investing that money and really setting myself up. And that's what allowed me to leave my job and do what I actually enjoy doing every day, which is making videos, regardless of if I make any money at it. But a lot of people will never have that choice because their default, their habit is to jump ahead. And as soon as they have money, as soon as they can move forward at all in life, they go ahead and do that. And they don't realize the long-term effects of that. Like technically I could afford to go out and get like a Tesla right now, but instead I'm gonna wait till I hit 500,000 subscribers. So if you wanna help me out, get the Tesla, because I think that'd be really cool. Then don't forget to subscribe. Having monthly payments. Now this is something that I see a lot, and honestly it's pretty tempting when you can't afford something that's maybe a couple $1,000s or even a couple $100, and instead you just do monthly payments for that thing. Whether it's a TV or a dishwasher or a Peloton or a car, whatever it is, a lot of people, if they can't afford something and they can afford the monthly payment, they think that they can afford that thing. But that is honestly how you get stuck in the rat race. Your monthly bills go up and up and up when you add $10 here, $50 here, $100 here on those monthly payments that last for years. Next thing you know, you're living paycheck to paycheck because you have so much going out every month and you think you can afford those things, but it becomes a financial stress that you can't get out of for years. My general rule of thumb is if I can't pay for this cash, then I can't buy this thing. You can use monthly payments for select few things, but I try to have as few of those as I possibly can. I almost have nothing financed really besides my properties. And that debt actually makes me money. But when it comes to consumer things or cars or anything like that, just if at all possible, just try to stay away from those monthly payments because that makes things so much harder than they need to be. Taking money advice from poor people. If you hadn't noticed, people who shouldn't be giving advice generally give the most advice. I try not to give too much advice. I'm mostly just talking about stuff that I've done myself or stuff that I'm seeing. But generally, it's poor people who will tell you that maybe investing in real estate is not a great idea when it's one of the most common ways that millionaires are made. Or they might tell you that investing in the stock market is risky and instead you should just keep your money in the bank, even though inflation's eating away at that money. They might tell you to get in $100,000 worth of student loan debts so that you can have a safe, secure job. They'll tell you you have plenty of time to save for your future and you shouldn't be so frugal and you should just go out there and enjoy your life and live while you're young. And while that's great, you can live while you're young and not have to work while you're young as well. Just generally, there's a lot of people who, because they are scared, which is one of the main reasons people have money problems because of fear, because they have never tried to improve their lives and they're just fine working till they're 65 and never going for anything better. They will try to discourage you and hold you back, or even if they think they're giving good advice, generally it's just something that they read from a headline of an article or saw on Instagram, and that's not where you want to get your advice. So just being very careful who you surround yourself with. You're the average of the 5 people you hang out with most, and not taking financial advice or maybe a lot of advice from people who you wouldn't want to be in their situation. Like you wouldn't take fitness advice from somebody who you never see move or get off a couch and are grossly overweight. You shouldn't take financial advice from somebody who doesn't have 2 nickels to rub together and has never started investing because they've been too scared. So just be cautious who you get your advice from. Food delivery. Well, this is one of the great conveniences of our modern times. It is a lot more expensive and a lot of people don't think about it as much because it is so easy to just have like 5 clicks and have food show up at your door. But what you might not realize is the expense that goes into this. Namely, that it can cost up to 91% more to buy food on an app and have it delivered as opposed to eating that food at a restaurant. If you look at Grubhub, DoorDash, Postmates, Uber Eats, as opposed to the restaurant. How much more it'll cost you can be anywhere from 25 to 91% more. And that's not even taking into consideration how much more the restaurant is to start with than just making your own food at home. So I'm not saying you should never do this, but it shouldn't be a habit. I do this maybe once a month or once every other month if it's a special occasion.
Or if I need B-roll.
But generally it just costs a lot more, and people don't see that the prices that they're seeing on top of all those fees are so much higher than just going out and getting something or just making your own stuff at home. And even if you do this just once or twice a week and it's maybe $20 extra a week, that can add up to over $1,000 at the end of the year that you're just paying extra for food. And for most people who are getting lazier and lazier, honestly, and just don't want to cook anymore and like actually eat healthy, it's gonna be a lot more than that. Payday loans. Sadly, this has become more and more common recently. You see places on the corner, or sometimes you even get ads for services that offer you payday loans. So instead of getting paid on Friday, you can get paid a week early or get an advanced on your next paycheck or whatever. This is one of the more like corrupt and messed up things that is for some reason legal right now. If you look at it in terms of yearly APR, it can cost anywhere from 300 to 600% for that money. But a lot of people don't see it that way. They look at it as it's an extra 20 bucks, or it's an extra 40 or 100 or a few $100s that they're paying to get their money early, and it's an emergency. But if you're doing this consistently, or even if you just do it once, it can be really hard to get ahead of that and pay off the interest and pay it all back. And it just cycles into this thing that makes some people an insane amount of money, but generally it's more or less a tax on people who are down on their luck or had an emergency or just can't wait till their next paycheck. So I'll give 3 more really quickly here, and then the rest will have to be in next week's video so we don't get an hour-long video here. First one is gambling, especially with lottery tickets. This can be a habit for a lot of people. When you stop for gas, you also stop for winning, and that is very close to just burning money as opposed to starting saving up money and investing and all that stuff. Just investing $5 a day or $5 a week can change your life a year from now, but if you're spending that on scratch-offs, like 99% of the people, it's not gonna change your life a year from now. Focusing on everything except for money. Most people will never read a financial book. I kind of do what you seem to be doing right now, which is watch financial videos, listen to podcasts, read books, just try to better myself. But a lot of people will never start learning about money, and therefore they'll always have money problems, because generally it's not how much you're making, but it's how much you're keeping. And a lot of people won't keep more money until they actually pay attention to it and start to learn about it. Instead, they just try to avoid the subject altogether, and that just makes their finances worse. So when the next video is out, I'll leave a link down in the description. Don't forget to check that out. Don't forget to subscribe and keep an eye out for part 2.